Hello and welcome to cabling. In this video I would like to show you how to put on a female Edison connector. We learned what Edison connectors are in a previous video. When you receive the connector, it is probably partially assembled, and what we'll have to do first is to take it apart. And so if you'll just loosen the screws that hold it together, right, it should just come right apart. Now, this style of connector requires that I put this on before I make the final attachment. If I put the end of the connector on without having this on, there's no way to get it on after the fact. So just be mindful of that. Now, the interesting thing about an Edison connector, well, there's several interesting things, right, is that they are built to go on a specific end of a wire, okay? As we look around at what the terminals are, there is a green set screw, and it usually is a hexagonal. It has flat sides, right? And that is ground, and that corresponds to the U ground pin of the connector. As we work our way around, we'll see a silver set screw that's round, and that corresponds to the largest, the widest blade of the connector, which is the common. And then as we continue around, we'll see a brass. The brass then corresponds to the narrowest blade, which is the hot. The slogan or the motto or the memory trick is going to be black to brass, save your ass. So black will go to brass, white will go to silver, and green will go to green. All right? So now it's to determine which end of the cable we need to actually go into this connector. And if I were to put the green there and the black there, if you can see this, you can see that this is backwards, right? With all the wires running straight, the white wire winds up on the brass. In order to make this side correct, we would have to cross those wires, which just doesn't make a very clean termination. If we flip the cable and use the other side and do the same exercise and put the green on the ground, you will see that they all line up perfectly. And that's the way that we would like to do it. So if you're putting on an Edison connector, be mindful of which end of the wire that you're using. All right, so now the next thing I want to do is make sure that my connector is fully open and ready to receive cable, which it is, right? Now what I need to do is to figure out how much of this wire do I need. If I were to assemble this connector with this much wire exposed, this much of the inner conductors exposed, you could see that the green and the white and the black wires will be sticking out the back of the connector. That's not what we want. What we want is for this white part of this connector to be over top of the black outer jacket. That way any strain that's applied to this wire and to the connector will transfer through the outside of the wire rather than through the inside. Yes? Okay, so here we go. Now again, let's remember, let's put our, so here, let's measure first. Let's see where we need to cut our cable. If that's where that's going to sit, it's really pretty short. I think somewhere right in here is going to do it. We're going to just trim that off because we don't need it. And then double check. That looks about right. What I'm measuring is, or what I'm looking to measure is, if I were to insert the wire that far. If I inserted the wire all the way that far, where does that leave my black jacket? Yes, that's where I'm looking at that depth. Now the next thing I want to do is go ahead and take my T-strippers, and I'm just going to go through and take off about 1/4 of an inch of each one of these, about 1/4 inch off the ground. Yeah, roll around here and take off 1/4 inch of the white. And now what am I forgetting? I am forgetting to put the back of this connector on. I need to be careful. I'm about to make a mistake, which I've been known to do. Let's see if we can't fit that on there. There we are. That's good. Right? So now I have this on here. I'm just giving the wires a light little twist so that they all line up and there's no stragglers. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend these conductors into the shape that they will need to be in when they go into that connector. And that way I can fit them all at once and they should slide right in, and then I can tighten it down. Now, I may have to make that adjustment or align them a few times. There's my green, there's silver, everything lines up pretty well. Right? I think I just need to be a little wider. I'm just bending them. And let's see how I do here. This looks pretty good. Yes, they all went right in. So now I can go through and start to tighten these. I'll start with the ground, and all I do is give it a good twist while I hold the cable and the wire into each one of the connectors. That went pretty well. I'll roll around here to the hot. Doesn't really matter which order you go in. I do tend to start with the ground first, but it doesn't matter. Right? I'll continue on around here to the neutral, to the white one, the silver one, and I'll tighten that one up. Almost there. Now, I want to just check them all again. Right? That one was good, the neutral. Let's check the ground is tight. And I'll check that the silver or the brass one is tight. Black to brass, save your ass. Now what I do is I fit the outer shell up. There is a key on this shell. There's a little ridge right there, and it's going to fit in right there. There's a little trough that it will allow that to slide up. It will only go on one way. It looks as though we have plenty of black back here on our cable grip to hold the outer jacket of the cable. And all I'm going to do now is tighten the 3 screws from the front that hold the connector to the body. Tighten those. They go pretty fast. And now I come around and I tighten these cable grips. And I will tighten these all the way down. They will go all the way down, almost regardless of the size of cable. Sometimes you'll look at it and think it won't fit at all, but it really will. You want to pinch that wire good. You won't damage any of the inner conductors, and you will make a nice, tight, permanent connection that will last forever if it's done well. And I'm almost there. This is good. That is the installation of a female Edison connector on a piece of 12-3 SJO. Thanks so much.